Hi, in this episode, Broxy takes to the track, test riding Cody Cooper's championship winning RM-Z450. Then I review the CF Moto 650 NK. And then Paul's going to head out and test the new Hayabusa, complete with ABS-equipped Brembo brakes.
We're here with Dirt Rider Down Under at Perini's, and today we're testing Cody Cooper's championship winning RM-Z450. So I've tested Cody Cooper's bike last time that he won a championship on it, and straight away I felt right at home. His settings, for one thing, are just how I like it. I think maybe it's partly to do with the way that we grew up through the ranks together and on the same team, and maybe rubbed off a little bit on each other with a setup. But basically, it felt really comfortable. He sets things up a little bit firmer than what I might do, but what that makes is it just makes the bike quite balanced. And with the bike that he ran this year for the Nationals, I think they've added even more horsepower to it. It's a deceptive power though, so it doesn't really feel like it's that much more grunty, but I found a couple of times out there on those turns when I wanted to hang the back out a little bit, and the way that it just bit in and it just went for it, you could really feel the horsepower there. Of course, out here at Perini's, it's wide open, and you can really make the most of the horsepower out here. But the coolest thing about this bike is how smooth that power comes on and how progressive the whole way through. It's got a really good package because the Suzuki already has a good decent clutch on it. Cody runs heavier springs in the clutch, but it's a good clutch as it is. On the suspension side of things, he's trying a few different settings, and at the moment I think they've just got a brand new shock in there. It's different to what they ran the New Zealand Nationals on, but it's still around about where he likes it, which is quite firm. I really didn't feel like it came on harsh at all. So he likes it to be really balanced, and I really noticed that out there. It was hard to get the front to dive, and the back definitely didn't feel like it was squatting in a lot at all. He's really fussy with his pre-sag. Even just today we spent, I think, about 3 different times we changed the sag just to get it right. Even just between when it was brand new and when we got out there later. As an overall on the bike, I found that the engine was definitely noticeable on how much power that it had all the way through the revs. It really hooked up and gave a good progressive hard power. I loved it. The little changes that he's made, such as the clutch springs and some of the suspension settings as well, they definitely add to that whole picture of being a nice, easy to ride bike. That's extremely fast. It was a good enjoyable ride, and of course red graphics and everything, and the number 1 just sets it off. And you've got a championship winning bike there, and I can see why Cody enjoyed riding it this year. So that was our impression on Cody Cooper's MotoCity Suzuki. As opposed to the cold weather that we've got here today, it definitely gave us some pretty warm feelings, and really enjoyed that ride today. So big thanks to the Perini's for letting us use the awesome track, and MotoCity for helping it all to happen.
At Star Insurance, we like to say no. No to cars, no to house and contents. Boats, no. Sorry, Zinny, no pets too. At Star, we specialise in only motorbike insurance. That's why we're experts from policy to claim handling. For the Star difference, call us today.
Dirt Rider Down Under, New Zealand's #1 off-road motorcycle magazine. Full of all the latest racing, news, reviews, tests, stories, interviews and more. Available at all good magazine stockists, or visit www.drd.co.nz to subscribe and save and check out our merchandise. Dirt Rider Down Under, proudly bringing you the best in New Zealand motorcycling and Bike Rider TV.
Next up, I'm going to head off on the new CF Moto 650 NK. This is a new parallel twin straight out of China. Hi, we've got something a little bit different for you this week. This is the CF Moto 650 NK. Now, if you're not familiar with the CF Moto moniker, then you're not alone. They've been making quad bikes, ATVs, and small capacity motorcycles in China for quite some time. This is their first real foray into the Western world's big sport motorcycle. Now, rather than starting from scratch, if you like, and building up a motorcycle and seeing what it goes like and how it's accepted by the marketplace, a close look at this, there's no denying that it is based on a certain model. Imitation being the ultimate form of flattery, then the biggest fan of the ER6N design team is obviously based in China. Now, at both ends it runs Hayabusa suspension. The front's non-adjustable, the rear is preload. The front's a little bit on the soft side. When you're pushing it hard, can tie itself into knots, but it's well on par for the course. Very familiar feeling, obviously. Fairly familiar sound as well. It's a little bit raspier, and with that engine layout, it's 180-degree crank. Its design is very similar to, again, the model it was made after. 70 horsepower, 62 newton meters of torque, so its numbers are fairly much on par with an earlier model Kawasaki ER6N. The fuel injection is Italian made. It's kind of noisy, which is a little bit disconcerting for a little while. Works fine, maybe not quite as crisp as the latest models. It's Euro 3 compliant. There's a LAMS legal version coming as well. The reliability, I mean, they've been making bikes for a long time over there. They probably are someone that we need to start taking seriously nowadays. With the price, it's a little bit of a compromise compared with the Japanese equivalents as far as finish, but it's a staggeringly good first attempt. Now, if you have any issues about origin, it might be a good time to look back a wee bit on history of motorcycling and think about when the Japanese bikes were considered cheap, unacceptable by those who thought it had to be English or American to be any good. And history says that wasn't such a smart idea. The CF Moto 650 NK is possibly the first model to come out of China that's going to have the mainstream guys looking and going, okay, we need to address this. Seriously, they all are. Not all your Japanese brands are fully made in Japan anymore. All your big players have small commuters that are price sensitive. They're extremely good value for money. This makes me think that you'll see the big players making some basic, simple motorcycles, a little bit like this, no frills, nothing too fancy, and pushing the price down to compete with the Chinese head on. The losers, hopefully there won't be any. The winners will probably be the motorcycling world, because you'll have lots of people getting into motorcycling because it's cheap, it's affordable, and hopefully that's going to be a good thing. So there you have it, $7,995. It's a parallel twin, 8-valve, 650cc motorcycle. It's 193 kilos dry, so it's right in amongst its class. It's a new name, it's a new player.
Bike Rider Magazine, New Zealand's leading road bike mag. Full of all the latest racing, news, reviews, tests, stories, interviews and more. Available at all good magazine stockists, or visit www.brm.co.nz to subscribe and save and check out our merchandise. Bike Rider Magazine, proudly bringing you the best in New Zealand motorcycling and Bike Rider TV.
Now here's Paul on Suzuki's awesome new ABS-equipped Hayabusa.
Hi, I'm Paul, and this week I'm testing this rather monstrous motorcycle, the 2013 Suzuki GSX 1300 RA, more commonly known as a Hayabusa. Now, Suzuki have been producing the Hayabusa since 1999, and that was a time when Suzuki and Kawasaki were both fighting for the honours of having the fastest production motorcycle. Not much has changed with the Hayabusa since it was launched in 1999. Had a bit of a styling makeover at the end of the last decade, but up until now, not much has really changed. 1340cc 4-cylinder power plant, it's making about 200 horsepower, it's got a huge mid-range and a stonking top end. What really has changed though is our perception of motorbikes. What used to be the ultimate sports bike really is now considered to be more of a sports tourer than an all-out sporty. Now, one thing you'll notice with the Hayabusa is that it looks like no other motorcycle out there. The whole bike has been designed in a wind tunnel to make it as slippery as possible to help it achieve those massively high speeds. Now, the bulbous nose at the front isn't just there for looks, it's there to force the air into the two big holes either side, which creates a ram air effect which produces massive amounts of horsepower the faster you go. On board, and the Hayabusa really has quite an unusual riding position. The seat height's quite low, whereas the pegs are quite high because this bike does go around corners, it's not just fast in a straight line. But then you've got this huge tank in the middle and quite a long stretch to the bars up front. So it is a bit peculiar, but once you get used to it, it's great, and it's also good for getting out of the wind when the speeds do creep up there. The dash is great. It's got a great big speedo and a great big rev counter, and both those needles move very, very fast when you open that throttle. There's also a big LCD gear indicator in the middle, so you never get confused about what gear you're in. If you don't want all the power all the time, it's got switchable mapping. So again, on the LCD screen in the middle, you can flick through the ABC modes, dial the power down. If it's a wet, slippery night that you're trying to get home, put it down to C, you cut down the horsepower, less likely to have a problem. Now, the new thing for 2013 is the gold things at the front of this bike. Set of Brembo monoblock calipers. Now, the previous Hayabusa brakes weren't bad, they just lacked a little bit in feel. The lever was a bit wooden, and if you were really trying to scrub off speed in a hurry, you didn't quite know what was going on at the lever. Now, Brembo are renowned for doing the best braking package in the world, and they've shown with this package that they are right on the money. Okay, you've got a bit more lever travel now, but the feel you get from it when you pull that lever is absolutely phenomenal, and you can almost stand this on its nose if it wasn't for the anti-lock brake system. Now, ABS brakes, you've got all that power, you are going to be travelling fast. It is a bit of a safety net there, and it works extremely well. In the dry, I couldn't get it to activate unnecessarily. In the wet, it's definitely there to save your bacon. If you've not ridden a Hayabusa before, there is nothing quite like it. Well, okay, there's the ZX14 from Kawasaki that's the same sort of genre, but both these bikes are just absolutely phenomenal. There can't be any other motorcycle that can pull from 50 kilometers an hour to 250 kilometers an hour in the same gear. That gear's top. That's incredible. There's a huge mid-range, there's a huge amount of power and a huge amount of fun. Now, this 2013 model with the Brembo brakes and the ABS is 22490. So it makes it a cheap bike, you get a lot for your money, and it's a bike that you can ride everywhere, every day. You can commute, you could track day it, but you can also tour around the South Island. Okay, luggage capacity is possibly a little bit of a problem, but a Ventura pack rack on the back and a tank bag on the front, you're set. It's got a 22 litre tank, so you're going to get 300 k's out of a tank. It ticks all the boxes.
Well, that's us for this episode. Till next time, shiny side up, eh?